Emotional eating. What is this concept of eating your emotions away? What does it mean? What is it that it makes it so hard to overcome? And why is it that at times we use food as a way to soothe a certain feeling, emotion, or even to change a behavior? In this video, I am going to talk about my personal experience with emotional eating and compulsive eating disorder. I want to start by saying that there might be a trigger in this video. I am going to talk about emotional eating and compulsive eating disorder. So if this is a theme that will trigger you some way, maybe you want to avoid it, or maybe you want to watch it, and by my own personal experience, maybe I could help you somehow to navigate this situation. This video is for you if you're interested in understand a little bit more about the experience of someone who went through this kind of situation, and if you are going through it yourself, or even if someone that you know is going through it, maybe this will help you navigate the situation a little bit better, or even find solutions that you could try. I want to make a disclaimer. I am not saying that the things that helped me are going to help everybody. I am not a doctor. I am not a health certificated anyone. So this is only my own personal experience. Take it as it is and use it if it can help you. If not, just forget I said it. Growing up, I felt I had absolutely no control over my life. I felt that every decision I was making, everything that I was doing, it was because or I was supposed to do it, or someone else had chosen that for me in a way or another. You know, there's many ways when you're young to be manipulated into making certain choices. So in the end of the day, I didn't really felt I had choices. I was also a raging people pleaser. I wanted to keep everyone around me happy and regulated, and I wasn't really happy or regulating myself, but that was what I wanted to keep. I wanted to keep peace. I wanted to make everybody feel good. One of the things that I did or didn't do was I wouldn't speak up. I wouldn't speak up about anything. I wouldn't say what I was thinking because I was too afraid, and I was scared that that was going to provoke a negative reaction on other people, because most of the times, and every single time that I tried to show people who I was or what I thought, it was always like I was made to feel that I was very strange, or there was a very negative reaction to me. So I developed this whole trapping feeling, and I was completely depressed, and I was masking this raging depression, and that I was masking everything that I was truly feeling. Everybody thought that I was a happy kid, but in the middle of all this, I had happy moments, but I was not really a happy kid, and mostly because I was leaving myself behind in order to please other people. In the middle of it, I developed an eating disorder. Like, I think in many situations, it's something that can happen. This just creeps up on you. I used eating food as a way to soothe myself and a way to make myself feel any kind of control, because by my own way of thinking, I have to eat in order to live. So nobody is going to tell me to stop eating. So no one can tell me what to eat, because my likes and dislikes are my own. So this is the only thing in my life that no one is going to come and tell me, oh, you cannot do it this way. I'm going to eat what I want when I want. And because that was the only thing in my life that I felt like I had any kind of control and choice about, and that I didn't have to be pleasing anyone, I just attached myself to this as a mechanism to soothe my feelings and to, when people say that you're eating your emotions away, you're literally eating your emotions away, because every time that those feelings and those traumatizing memories would come to me, I would just eat. And there is this system in the brain, this reward system, that every time, for example, we all experience that if you eat a chocolate, you feel this surge of happiness, you have this bubbly feelings, because there is a chemical reaction happening in the brain. If you eat certain things, you get this dopamine raise in your brain, and there is a certain sense of happiness and a good feeling. So eating gave me that, like in short bursts, but I had that. If I was feeling bad and I couldn't talk about it because I wouldn't allow myself to speak up and say that I was feeling depressed, or I was starting to feel numb because I couldn't move without feeling like I was wrong, I would eat. And nobody could tell me anything about it, or so I thought. At a given time, I know that my mother even told me, like, don't you think you're eating too much? And I remember that when she told me that, I felt this anger in my belly. Like, what? Are you going to try and tell me that I cannot eat? Now, I don't know. It was just this, I don't know. I felt very justified at that point, because I knew that she couldn't tell me when I had enough. She couldn't feel my stomach. She didn't know if I would had enough after an apple or if I would add enough after 10. I was the one feeling hungry or not hungry, full or not full. So no one could tell me that I had enough. Let me tell you that most times I had enough. There were moments where I would have stomach pain because I knew I had enough. But there was still so much that I was holding on to, and that I didn't have an escape route or didn't have a healthy way of putting out or taking out of my chest. I felt like that was the only way I could escape. That was the only way for me to feel better. So I ate. And after a while, it was starting to become something really bad. It was not only the weight gain. I always struggled with my weight, but when I was a teenager, I had sports at school. So I kept a relatively active lifestyle, and my weight was kind of in check. After I left school and started working, that's when things started to get a little bit out of hand, and I couldn't control my eating. At work, I was experiencing the same kind of feelings because people pleasing was still there, not speaking up was still there, and obviously there is some people will prey on that. And if you don't feel like you have any worth, or if you attribute your worth to external reasons, you will just keep repeating this cycle. And then my comfort, my soothing was food. That really set me into a path for disaster. I started putting a lot of weight. I am not a very tall person, so you can see it, and I have a pear shape, so you would be able to see it right away. And I was aware, but I couldn't stop. There were moments where I was eating and I was crying because I knew deep inside me that I also didn't have control, and I was eating to feel some kind of control, feel some kind of choice, and at the same time, I had absolutely no control. I don't have an addictive personality, but I was addicted to food because it was an emotional attachment. Food was giving me a comfort that I wasn't finding in my environment, in the world around me. And I've been researching a lot about Dr. Gabor Maté. And in his work, he speaks a lot about how trauma and experiences we had as a child can influence our addictions. And I really love the way he approaches this. He has a very kind way of speaking about addiction, what this speaks to in you, and how you can overcome that. Most of the times, we have to dig deep. And addiction is always attached to something good that you're feeling, something you were missing. For example, if you didn't feel safe and you didn't feel like you had someone to protect you, you could use your addiction in order to feel that protection. Because every time you go, for me it was food, it can be any other thing, and you go and you use that addiction, you will get a feeling of soothness. You will feel the good feeling you are looking for. And this is in very layman terms, obviously, but it's a really, really good work to look into if you're interested into addiction, trauma, how to deal with your emotions. I would highly recommend. It's all around the internet, and Dr. Gabor Maté has a beautiful and very kind way to speak about these things. And I must say that also helped me looking into all of that. After I went into that path to disaster, and I started to see my health declining because of that, there was at a point in my life a click. And finally, I think that I woke up to the fact that there is something underneath this. There are underlying issues that I need to look into. And the question that I posed myself, that I think the question that is the most important one, was pivotal for me, was what am I trying to eat away? What is it that I'm trying to avoid when I am eating? What am I trying to soothe? What are the emotions that I am masking or trying to ignore? And they were asking for my attention. There was something inside of me asking for my attention, and I decided there was time to look into it. In this part of the video, I would like to focus on the things that really helped me, things that I came to understand that were connected to my emotional eating and my eating disorder, and also things that are not directly connected to eating disorders, but they are deeply and underlying things that may be potentiating and maybe enhancing the feelings that you had. The first thing I did was starting to make difficult choices. And when I say difficult, I mean every single choice would be difficult at that time, because I didn't feel in any moment of my life like I had a choice. I always felt like I had to be a certain way, and if I wasn't that way, bad things would happen. So the first thing was making difficult choice. Even though I was totally afraid, I was terrified, I had to change my life. Because for me, at that point, the way my health was declining, I heard from my doctor that I had to do something about it, or else I was going to develop something really bad, and that was maybe going to be very detrimental to my future. So that really scared me because I was always very focused in health issues and all those things. It was part of my anxiety. So when I heard that, like, your eating is maybe gonna be the thing that's going to end your existence, that kind of rang a bell, right? But I had to make difficult choices, and I started by changing very big things in my life. I was married at the time that I finally woke up, and one of the decisions I had to make was to get a divorce. It was not a happy relationship. It was not fulfilling, and I had to stop trying to do the things that were better for other people, and I had to start doing things that I needed. And at that point, what I needed was some freedom. I needed to go somewhere where I could be with myself and learn who is that person when she is not exposed to other people's choices, to the way that she should be, when the word should is not the first thing that comes into my mind. And that was one of the hardest things that I had to do, but it opened a whole other set of choices that I could make from that moment on. I started living alone, and at that moment I could focus into my physical health. I started reading a nutrition book, and I had first a very good idea of how my body worked and how I could best respect it. And the next thing that happened once I started to eat better and to actually respect my body, that's when my spiritual awakening started. Because I'm telling you this, if you're into this kind of thing or not, in the moment that you make such a big decision, and in the moment that you make a connection between your mind, your emotions, your spirit, and your body, in the moment that you actually sit with yourself, something magical happens. There is something that happens. There is this connection that you find in yourself, and you finally hear your own voice. And at this point, I started to understand that there was more to me than just my physical body. My physical body, it was obviously a pivotal part of me, but there was more to this body. I believe that there is a all other level to us. There is an energetic body, a spiritual body, a soul. Many people have many different names for it, but there is something there that is our life, our essence, and we need to take care of that too. If we don't take care of that, that is our mind, our soul, and we disconnect that from our body, there is no way that we're ever going to find balance and that we are ever going to be able to solve any problem. So my spiritual awakening started at that point. I started to be more aware of myself. So I started meditating in order to actually be aware of all the parts of my body. One of the first things I did was just to sit with myself and listen. It's hard for me to sit in silence because my mind doesn't stop. There is always something there. So for me, a person with a mind that never stops, guided meditation was just a God-given, because there is always someone guiding you. Guided meditation helps you envision what is actually happening. For my brain, that is the only way it can find rest. I was picturing those guided meditations, and I was finally finding what we call the mind and body congruency. One of the meditation techniques that greatly helped me was the frame technique, or the candle meditation by Aaron Doughty. If you don't know that, you need to go and check it out, because in that meditation, I finally started to feel safe being in my own body. And I finally started to be able to be aware of me in relation to the space around me. And that gave me a certainty. That gave me a chance to reframe things that I needed to reframe. I needed to reframe my view on myself. I needed to reframe safety within myself, self-love, and my worth And with that technique, it's very, very simple meditation, but the results are amazing. I am a living proof that it works. And that technique helped me, and it opened the door for me to start working on my next point, that is self-love. I started talking to myself with kindness. And that was really hard because I was so used to be this huge critic of myself and to be the person that first tells me, you are worthless. I know this is sad to say, but that was me back then. That's how my brain worked. And after I finally found safety, I also found this beautiful love inside of me. And my energy started rising and started finding a path. And the path that it found was towards my heart. And I started opening up. I started also finding some grounding techniques. I find that grounding yourself is also one of the best ways to be aware of your body and to create a connection with it. So grounding techniques like walking bare feet outside. That was something that I actually used to do when I was a child, and then I stopped doing as an adult, but walking bare feet outside really, really helps. Sometimes just being outside, breathing a bit of fresh air, and I don't know, just touch a plant. There is many ways to ground, but I find that connecting with nature is one of the easiest ways. It's easy, it doesn't cost you any money, it doesn't cost you extra time of your day, because going outside and putting your feet on the ground or just walk barefooted around your house, it's a good way. I find that dancing is also a very good way to ground, especially if you're a music lover. I am, so it's really good. I mean, and I'm not saying like you need to know what you're doing, but just shake it up, because another thing that helped me a lot was somatic exercises. And you also don't have to make it very hard for yourself. Just shake your body. Like when you're dancing, just shake your hips and, like the cats when they are wet and they start shaking everything, something like that. Just shake it out. I promise you it works. It just helps your body release that tension, those emotions that you've been trying to eat away. And, I did also some shadow work, therapy, that helped me greatly. Obviously, there are certain things that need to be unlocked. Systemic therapy is something that helps you go deeply into your relationships, everything that you've experienced with your parents, with other people in your life, and helps you peel out the layers and try to understand a little bit further. Another thing that helped me a lot was intermittent fasting. I'm not going to tell you that this is a one-time thing. This is a process, and I find that in moments in my life where I'm more stressed out or when I'm dealing with a lot, this old habit starts to try to creep in. I start to see that I'm thinking more about food, that I am not able to feel when I'm full, or anything that is connected to me using food as a reward system or as a masking system for some emotions. And when things get hard in my life, it starts creeping in. The thing that is different is I now am pretty much aware of it, and I don't see it anymore as, oh my God, this thing is gonna come back and it's going to overwhelm me. No, now I say, hey, I know who you are. Let's get to the bottom of this. So at a given time in my life, I found out intermittent fasting, and that really, really worked for me. The fact that I had a window of time when I could eat and a window of time when I was not eating helped me reframe my thoughts on food, because then I started to be able to understand that I would only eat when I was hungry, and that I was not always hungry as I thought that I was. most of the times I wasn't hungry, I just wanted to eat. And intermittent fasting really shone a light into this for me. It was a huge eye opener because I read about it that was one of the things that led to intermittent fasting methods. Is like, we don't need to be eating the whole day long, we only need to eat when we're hungry, and that our body has enough wisdom to tell us when we're hungry. But because we keep eating, we kind of teach ourselves that we need to eat. And it doesn't matter if you're hungry or not, if you need it or not, you understand that you have to eat. I was a bit skeptic about it, so I looked into it. I chose to do the 16-hour first, 16-hour fasting, 8 hours eating, and I chose to maintain lunch and dinner because I thought they were the most nutritious meals for me. And I sometimes skip breakfast. Let me tell you, best thing I did. In the beginning, I thought it was going to be hard, but most of this time you're sleeping, because I would eat after 8, I wouldn't eat anymore, and then I would only eat the next day about lunchtime, 16 hours after. It wasn't hard at all. Most of the time I was asleep. The rest of the time I was drinking tea, or I was drinking coffee, or water. You can even drink bubbly water. I mean, I didn't miss it. And then I went from 16 to 18 hours fasting, and I wasn't missing it. And I was eating enough. The calories I needed, because that's also important. I was giving my body what it needed. And with intermittent fasting came clarity. I felt the brain fog just went away. I started working out. I felt more energetic. Thinking was easier to me. It was, because when I say easier, because my brain is always so busy and I'm always thinking about something, sometimes it's hard for me to keep focus. But it was somehow easier to keep focus, and to, even if I had another thoughts, to know which one was the most important and what I should be doing right now. And I found out that it helped me greatly. These were the things that worked for me. This, like I always say, we are a constant work in progress, and things that haunted us in the past can come back. And it doesn't mean that you are weak, or that you couldn't, that you can't do it, or that it doesn't mean that. It just means that there are certain things that were such a huge part of our lives, and that there are certain things inside of us that we still have to work on. And there are things that take a whole life to work on. There are things that come back, but the difference is that you will be aware of it and you will know better ways to deal with it. So if it's you, if it's someone else in your life, the first thing is treat it with kindness, because most of the times the person going through this doesn't really feel like they have control over anything. It is overwhelming. It is really a feeling of hopelessness. And they are not doing this because they want. They are doing this because they need, or at least they think they need. So as any other disorder, treat it with kindness, and don't try to force the person or yourself to do anything that you can't. Kindness is the first step to listen and create a safe space for the person to exist. For me, that was what I think I missed back then, was a person that sat with me and said, listen, what you're going through is totally understandable and it is allowed. So is this something you want to talk about? Is there something that you think could help you? And I didn't have that back then. So let me be that person for you. So if you are dealing with something like this, or if you feel like you need to open your heart and put something out there, sometimes it's easier to do that with a person that you're not connected to directly. Sometimes it's easier to open up to a stranger than it is to open up to a family member or to a friend. So let me be that for you. Leave down in the comments your experience and what you think about all this, and let me know if you found other techniques, other things that helped you, or if you think that there is other ways that you could help yourself or others. Just let me know. I am open to suggestions, and I am here for anyone that wants to talk about anything that is bothering them. So, my friends, thank you so much for watching, and as always, welcome home. Mwah.